Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. I'm Dawn, and I've been podcasting regularly for the better part of 3 years now, and even guesting on podcasts for about 4 years off and on before that. I feel like I've got a lot of experience with podcasting, and I want to share with you some of the easier ways that you can start podcasting and jumping into a podcast or getting your podcast out into the public. So let's jump in and talk about some ways you can do that. Now, of course, my goal with this channel is to make live streaming, videos, and podcasting more simple. So, one way to do that through YouTube, like you're watching this video on already. This is especially over the last year or two, I would say it's really gotten popular, but growing a podcast through YouTube is something you can do. It's not the kind of traditional way that we're used to viewing podcasts or listening to podcasts, but you definitely can do a video style podcast. You can record yourself talking like I am, or you and somebody else, you and two other people, however you're going to do it. Put that video up on YouTube. And that can be your podcast. There are some popular channels that already do this. And I do want to also point out it might not be the best way for growing a YouTube channel. So it's not necessarily the best strategy if you're wanting to hit like 1 million subscribers on YouTube or anything like that. But in terms of a podcast, it is a very good way to get your podcast out into, the internet and have it accessible. Now, the second way that you can kind of jump into the podcast sphere is work with somebody that already has experience podcasting or start guesting on podcasts, for example. I said I did that for a long time before I officially got into my own shows and joining on as a permanent host in other shows. Finding somebody that you can work with, either to create a show between the few of you or jumping in as a guest or even semi regular guest, is a great way to get podcasting out there, and you can take a lot from their experience, what they've been doing with their show or their knowledge, and be able to help you grow as a podcaster. There's also a couple ways for this. First, somebody that you already know, a friend, a colleague, somebody in your community that you might already know, whether it's a gaming community or a book club or whatever that is, somebody that you kind of are already familiar with. Or maybe you find somebody by reaching out through social media. If you have an idea on how to start a podcast, or you have this idea for a podcast you want to start, but you don't know how to do it, reach out and say, hey, this is my idea. I want to start something. If anybody else is interested, maybe we can work together. And if they have podcasting experience, then already you're going to kind of be ahead of the game with your podcast. Or they might already have experience using hosting sites and uploading shows. You could take advantage of that. Or if neither of you know how to do that, I did actually already do a video on how to get started and upload an episode on Anchor. So you can check that out. I'll link it up here, link it in the show notes. You can tell that I definitely have experience podcasting. I'll link that in the description for you. The description will have that video as well. And I will mention it again at the end of this video, but definitely recommend you check that out if you need more experience with getting your video uploaded. And if you've been getting any value so far out of this video, I would love if you could just give it a quick thumbs up so that others can find it as well. Thank you. Thank you. And now for the third and final tip, which I kind of already did mention, but the last tip is using a site to host your podcast. So, like Anchor, for example, Podbean is another great one. There's tons out there. Anchor and Podbean are the two that I would recommend. They are free and very easy to use. But again, there's tons of different sites out there. Some have like minimal monthly payments for you to be able to use the amount of like storage space that you might need, and they can help you on those sites get your show uploaded to Apple Podcasts and Spotify and all of the other places where people can listen to the audio versions of your podcast. So it makes it really easy because using those sites basically means then your podcast is everywhere, right? It's not just on YouTube where you might upload it there. It's not just in your close knit community, but it's going to be much more out into the open. So if people are searching for whatever your topic is, then being on Spotify or those other places are going to make it a lot easier for people to find your podcast. Now, I will say the best thing I think about these three ways of doing podcasting, getting your podcast out there, is that these are very much a mix and match kind of thing as well, right? You can record a video podcast, put it up on YouTube, and you can also take the audio only and upload that to something like Anchor to put on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whatever it is, which means that your podcast is in more places for people. And there's a visual aspect and the audio aspect. So you're also going to be able to kind of reach various audiences if that's what you're going for. Also, if you maybe work with somebody who has podcasting experience already, for things like the audio to make your audio better or finding great music or clips, sound effects, all of that kind of thing to, again, make your show even better. And you can work with them to get your shows uploaded either on YouTube, through audio only, both. But the more you kind of mix and match these concepts, I think the better you will be set up for success. Of course, you don't have to do these, you don't have to do a visual. So you could just upload audio, that's fine. You could do a solo podcast. You don't have to work with somebody else. But I think that, again, the things that I love the most about these different ways of doing podcasting is that they are very easy to mix and match and just make it fit what you're doing. And if you've made it this far, you are ready to get started with your podcast. You want to record your audio on your own or even in a browser. You can record just through your browser. It's super easy to do. Just check out this video I did on how to get started on Anchor, and you can upload, record, edit, all of it in the browser